On May 29, 1953 AD, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary became the first to successfully climb Mount Everest, the highest mountain on Earth. Tenzing Norgay was born in Khumbu, Solukhumbu district, Sagarmatha zone, Nepal in the year 1914. Although the exact date of his birth is unknown, since the Sherpa did not keep a birth record at that time. Tenzing Norgay was able to establish that he was born sometimes in late May due to the weather and the crops on the day he was born, but he did not know his exact date of birth. After the successful climb of Everest, Tenzing Norgay chose the date of 29th May to be his birthday. The same day, they reached the summit. He was named Namgyal Wangdi at his birth and was the 11th of 13 children born to Buddhist parents who lived in Solukhumbu Valley. 8 of his siblings died in their young age and he has 2 elder brothers. His father, a Tibetan yak herder, was Gangla Mingma, and his mother, who was a Tibetan, was Dokmo Kinjum. His parents came from Tibet. As a small child, Namgyal was taken to a Rongbuk monastery in Tibet. Brought before a lama who consulted his holy books, it was proclaimed that Namgyal was the reincarnation of a wealthy man who had recently died in the Solukhumbu Valley. Insisting that his name to be changed to Tenzing Norgay, meaning wealthy fortunate follower of a religion, the lama predicted great things for the child. Being the third son, he was sent to a monastery to become a lama. After a few months, Tenzing ran away from that monastery and returned to his parents to become a yak herder. Somewhere in the late 1920s, there was a major epidemic in his town and most of the yaks died in this epidemic. His father lost all his yaks. His father was devastated as he has nothing left. As his father did not know how to look after the family, his father decided to send Tenzing to work in a wealthy Sherpa home in Thami. Tenzing was not happy with this life. He did not want to remain working for the wealthy Sherpa family all his life. Tenzing spent his childhood grazing yaks in the highlands, and at the tender age of 13, he ran away from home to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, with the dreams of building a beautiful future and finding a way to fulfill his dream of climbing Mount Everest. But he could not survive in Kathmandu. While living in Kathmandu, he did not see the way to fulfill his dream of climbing Mount Everest, so he returned to the village. He had a passion for mountain climbing, whereas his parents wanted him to become a monk. In 1932, as usual, he ran away from home again and reached Darjeeling. Darjeeling was the hub for all expedition. Even after running away from home and going to Darjeeling, his only wish was to join the British team in an effort to climb Mount Everest at any cost and to climb Mount Everest. At that time, Nepal was forbidden to foreigners, and up to that time, all attempts to climb Mount Everest were from the northern side. In the process, since the first attempt to climb Mount Everest in 1921, the British had recruited Sherpas living in Darjeeling for various tasks, including porters, to help them climb. This is why Tenzing too went to Darjeeling with the great hope and dream of joining the British expedition. Also, Tenzing had fallen in love with the wealthy Sherpa girl Dawa Phuti, whose parents were against their marriage. They did not want their wealthy daughter to get married with landless yak herder. So, Tenzing and Dawa Phuti decided to flee to Darjeeling. In Darjeeling, Alubari, he got a job to look after cows. In 1933 AD, Tenzing was rejected as a Sherpa for the Everest expedition under Hawk Ruttles as he had no experience. Interestingly, his friend Dawa, who was 7 years older than him and had no experience as him, was selected. Tenzing went back to Alubari, Darjeeling and continued to look after his cows and sell milk in Darjeeling Bazaar. In 1934 AD, a huge earthquake struck India and Nepal. More than 10,000 people died. Tenzing somehow got the news that his parents believed that Tenzing was dead in this earthquake and were performing his funeral rites. Tenzing immediately returned home in 1934 AD to meet his parents and convince them that he was still alive, and he also rebuilt their house, which was damaged. He returned to Darjeeling in 1935 AD and married Dawa Phuti. In 1935 AD, British returned to Darjeeling to recruit Sherpas and porters for the Everest expedition led by Eric Shipton. British mountaineer Eric Shipton chose Tenzing to assist in an expedition to explore the area around Everest in 1935. He was around 19 at this time. Tenzing almost missed this opportunity. Two Sherpas were selected at the last minute, and he happened to be one of them. 1935 was Tenzing's first expedition, and Tenzing had never climbed a mountain before. He watched the British climbers, copied their moves, and that is how he learned how to climb a mountain. During this ascent of 1935, Tenzing's work, mountaineering skills, and helpful demeanor won the hearts of the white British, who were united in their effort to climb Mount Everest. After winning the hearts of whites, Tenzing's presence in every British expedition became almost mandatory. Tenzing was added to the British expedition of 1936 and 1938 following the 1935 ascent. In the end of 1939 AD, he suddenly got the very sad news that his son, Nima, who was just 4 years old, had died of dysentery in Darjeeling. Tenzing immediately rushed back to Darjeeling and took his wife Dawa Phuti and his two daughters back with him in Chitral, present-day Pakistan. Due to World War II, British efforts to climb Mount Everest were postponed. But Tenzing did not give up his efforts to reach the summit. In the meantime, he continued his mountaineering career with a team that climbed the peaks of Nanda Devi in India, Tirithmir and Naga in Pakistan, and Langtang in Nepal, and Garhwal in India. Tragically, his wife Dawa Phuti died in Chitral in 1944 AD. Tenzing returned to Darjeeling in 1945 AD with his two daughters and stayed in Tungsung Basti. One day in Darjeeling Bazaar, he met one Sherpa woman, Ang Lamu, who he knew from his first visit to Darjeeling in 1932 AD. Tenzing and Ang Lamu used to bargain in the bazaar over the price of milk, which Tenzing used to sell. Tenzing married Ang Lamu in 1945 AD. Ang Lamu provided stability to his home and took care of two daughters. During World War II, Tenzing also worked as a ski instructor for the Indian Army. After the end of World War II, there were many upheavals and changes in the world. Nepal could not remain untouched by these upheavals and changes. As a result, Nepal's borders, which were previously forbidden to foreigners, are now open to foreigners. Nepal opens its border to foreigners in 1949 AD. At the same time, Tibet was annexed by China. Because of this, Tibet closes its border. The British no longer had a monopoly on climbing Mount Everest. By working as a porter in the British expedition, Tenzing had become an established name among mountaineers by now. By this time, he was not a porter, but a leader of the porters and a leader who guided and helped the mountaineers to climb the mountain. Tenzing made many unsuccessful attempts to reach to the top, some of them being in 1935 with Eric Shipton, leader of the Reconnaissance expedition, in 1936 with John Morris, and with Canadian-born Earl Denman, who entered Tibet illegally but had to give up at 22,000 feet or 6,700 meter altitude due to a heavy storm. In 1952, Tenzing was invited to join a Swiss expedition that attempted to climb Mount Everest. In this group, he was not invited as a mere porter or other such participant, but as a respected and experienced climber to participate in the attempt to climb Mount Everest. Participating in the expedition, Tenzing accompanied Lambert to 778 feet below the summit of Mount Everest, or 28,250 feet. The second attempt to climb in the winter was abandoned due to the bad weather. The Swiss gave Tenzing a Rolex watch, which has his name engraved at the back of the watch for his efforts in almost reaching the summit on 1952 expedition. In 1953 AD, Tenzing was asked to take part in a British expedition to reach the summit of Mount Everest. At that time, the high Himalayas were largely unexplored and no one knew if it was possible for climbers to reach the summit. Under the leadership of Colonel John Hunt, the expedition included a strong team of climbers, a physiologist, a filmmaker, and a news correspondent. The group set up a series of camps in stages up the mountain. They found a new passage through the dangerous and unstable Khumbu Icefall, traversing the south face of Lhotse and reaching the South Pole. On May 26, 1953, two members of the team, Charles Evan and Tom Bourdillon, attempted to reach the summit. They got as far as the south summit, within 300 feet of their goal, when one of their oxygen units failed, forcing a retreat. Edmund Hillary, a New Zealand mountaineer, and Tenzing Norgay were considered the strongest and best climbers of the team. A final camp was established at 27,900 feet just above the South Pole, and the two men spent the night on 28 May 1953 there. The night was long, and they had little oxygen to spare for sleeping. They decided to use it in two shifts, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. and from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. From 11 p.m. to 1 p.m., they stayed awake. They keep their body warm by drinking hot sweet lemonade. When their oxygen supply ran low at 3 a.m., they resumed eating and drinking, hoping to store up energy for the climb ahead. Hillary and Tenzing spent a long time warming themselves and preparing their gear. Far below, in the darkness, they could see the small lights of Tengpoche Monastery, where the Buddhist monks would be praying for their safety. At 6:30 a.m. on May 29th, they dressed in layers of clothes, wool underclothes, down jackets and pants, 3 pairs of gloves, and insulated boots. They crawled out of the tent, put their goggles and oxygen equipment, and headed out into the piercing cold. They walked with difficulty through the crusted snow, heading up towards the ridge above them, when the dawn sun was shining. They moved slowly and reached the south summit by 9 a.m. After checking their oxygen supply, they headed on between corners and steep drop-offs and came to a vast slope of snow, which the two previous climbers, Bourdillon and Evans, had chosen to avoid. In May 29, 1953 AD, at 11:30 a.m., Tenzing, along with Edmund Hillary, became the first persons to successfully reach the top. It had taken Tenzing 7 expeditions and 18 years to stand on the summit of Everest, and had taken the British 9 expeditions and 32 years to put a team on the summit of Everest. In this historic photograph taken by Edmund Hillary, Tenzing is standing on the summit with all the flags proudly in front of him. For many years, no one knew whether Hillary or Tenzing had been the first to reach the summit. Both of them simply said that they had ascended together. Tenzing's life changed most dramatically. He had gone from being a member of a little-known mountain tribe to an international hero. In reality, there is no photo of Edmund Hillary climbing the top, since Tenzing never handled a camera before, and the summit of Everest was hardly the place to teach Tenzing how to use camera. King Tribhuvan of Nepal presented him with the Order of Star of Nepal (OSN) in 1953 AD. In 1954 AD, Tenzing Norgay became the first director of field training of Himalayan Mountaineering Institute in Darjeeling, which trained mountaineers and guides. In 1959 AD, he was conferred with the Padma Bhushan by the government of India. His autobiography, Tiger of the Snows, was published in 1955 AD. Tenzing spoke 7 different languages but never learned to write, although he did write several books by dictating them to others. In 1978 AD, he founded the company called Tenzing Norgay Advertisers, a company providing trekking adventures in Himalayas. His son Jamling Tenzing Norgay, who also climbed the Everest in 1996 AD, now runs it. He was awarded the George Medal by Queen Elizabeth II and also the Queen Elizabeth Coronation Medal. In January 2008 Lukla Airport in Nepal was changed to Tenzing Norgay Airport in the honor of the duo. In September 2013 the government of Nepal named two unnamed peaks in Nepal after Hilary and Tenzing Norgay. Those were named as Hilary Peak and Tenzing Peak. There is a statue built in the memory of Tenzing Norgay in Darjeeling. Tenzing Norgay was married 3 times. His first wife, Dawa Futi, died young in 1944 AD. They had a son, Nima Dorje, who died at the age of 4 and 2 daughters. Tenzing Norgay's second wife was Ang Lamo. They had no biological children, but she was adoptive mother to their daughters from his earlier marriage. His third wife was Daku, whom he married while his second wife was still alive. They had 3 sons, Nurbu, Jamling and Dhame, and 1 daughter, Deki. Tenzing Norgay died of cerebral hemorrhage on May 9, 1986 in Darjeeling, India at the age of 71. Thank you.